Welcome to Zeta Protocol, the Star Wars Galaxy of Heroes podcast that's 74% less coherent than a pirate's wedding vow, 18% more surprising than September bonus drops, and statistically destined to break up with your mods just to get back together 3 patches later. I'm Egnards, joined by Pico, the Black Flag Burrito, and tonight we sail into strange waters. Vane's flying the Jolly Roger, GL Hondo's demanding a guest list that includes a Jedi Master and Blind Monk, and somewhere on the horizon, whispers of the next era drift in like a half-forgotten chorus. Whether you're hoarding treasure chests of Get 3 or just here for the non-existent background music, the tide's rolling in, so check your crew, G12 your liquor of choice, and hit play before the wind changes keys. Now, Mr. Pico Burrito, we both had birthdays last week. I enjoyed a lovely day in the city with my wife. We went to Cote. We had really, really amazing drinks. I lost a pair of sunglasses, which is pretty typical of me. That's why I buy cheap sunglasses. How how was the Big 50?
It was great. It was phenomenal, and in fact, incredibly relevant. So to your intro, it's been going on for 2 weeks, kind of. We had a couple weeks ago. We had some family, some local friends in town over on Saturday to celebrate my birthday, uh, and I was overserved in my own home. I don't know who did it, but I was overserved. And when I woke up the next morning, my cousin who was in from out of town was staying at our house, and she came down and she's like, "I can't tell you how excited I am that you're going to officiate our wedding." And I was like, "I what?" And she's like, "Yes, you were very excited last night to offer up that you would be willing to officiate our wedding. So I will be doing that." I had a quick jaunt for a couple of days in Las Vegas for work, so got to hang out with some coworkers at a couple places. And then yesterday, all of my good friends from college came into Columbus, Ohio, or well, actually, this is 2 days ago, and we watched the Ohio State Buckeyes dismantle the number one Texas Longhorns in the shoe. It was a phenomenal, phenomenal weekend. I'm tired. I
I can
am
imagine.
just tired at this point. So
So, if you wanted to play a game of Clue, I think I have a suspect for who overserved you in your house. Just just saying, there was a really big favor that was offered. One that I don't think we're gonna accept so readily, um, if you were not inebriated. It's kind of like, I don't know. It was the cousin in the study with the whiskey, maybe.
yeah, actually, I can tell you exactly what it was. It was a good friend of mine from work who, for some reason, thought, "Hey, let's bring beers that are like 12+% and
Oof.
see what happens." And when I brought this up to him, like, "Hey, I agreed to officiate a wedding," and he said, "Good, I did my job." That was his comment coming back to me. So yeah, it was a good time.
That's
Uh,
beautiful. I would like some footage from that wedding. I would just like to see the speech. I don't care. Normally I tune out during the ceremony and I just go like, is this over? Is this over? Are we done? Can I start drinking now? But I would love to see that.
yeah, yeah. We'll see. The best part is her husband or soon to be husband is in the service. I've met him a couple times. Really good guy. He's in one of those branches of the service where they lose all communication with the world for a couple of weeks or months at a time. And my understanding is he just found out today that I'm doing this. So it's like, hey, I solved our problem. Who? You're my cousin Brian. I'm like, oh, okay. I guess that's how we're gonna do this. So yeah, it'll be great. Yeah,
Happy
I've been
wife,
told
happy
no
life.
Top Gun yeah, no Top Gun references. That's what I've been told.
Oh, that's rough. You can sneak in like a B level one.
Okay, speaking of, I have to tell one last story. Um, so do you know who Glenn Powell is?
I mean, I have a cursory understanding, but I not to the degree that I'm sure that you do.
I don't really. I don't. So Glenn Powell is a Hollywood actor who was in the new Top Gun.
Yes.
He was the main character in the new Twister.
Hmm.
So uh, Saturday, I walk into the bowels of Ohio Stadium. We're playing Texas. He is from Austin, and I am standing in this massively long beer line while my wife is going to the bathroom. And a security guard walks up and goes, "Hey, do you mind if I cut her?" And I'm like, "Of course, man, you're working." And I assumed he was just getting water. And I look over the corner of my eye and I see all these people taking pictures, and I'm like, this is really weird. And then all of a sudden, this dude walks up in a Texas like baseball shirt, and it looks familiar. I'm like, "How you look familiar?" He turns around, I saw Powell, and I'm like, "Oh, it's that actor guy." He's literally standing right in front of me. I'm like, "Hey, can I get a picture?" My wife wouldn't believe me if this happens. Very nice. Took a picture with me, and then I spent the rest of the day texting everyone in the world that I know. Here is a picture of the most handsome man in the horseshoe and Glenn Powell. All right, so that was what I was sending to everyone in the world, and I will more than happy put that picture up on Discord. But yeah, so that was kind of like the weird quirk highlight of the day on Saturday.
I mean,
So
that's kind of cool.
yeah,
That's pretty awesome. Again, I've seen the
yeah,
movies. I thought you were gonna give me some really obscure fact about him, and I was gonna be like, I
no,
just know he's hot. That's
yeah.
it.
That was one of my buddy's wives texted me like later in the day, and she's like, "Oh my God, send me that picture. I don't believe it's real." And I'm like, "Oh, it absolutely is." So yes,
It was
yeah,
AI. Speaking
yeah,
of speaking of weddings, we do have to bring up the Taylor Swift and Travis Kelsey engagement.
yeah,
Um, I, interesting tidbit, my little anecdote for the week, which is related to this. When it happened, I don't remember the exact day that it happened. My wife told me basically right away, so I knew exactly the minute
yeah,
that it happened, right? Because that's just how my wife is and how a lot of her fans are. And then I came over to Discord, and somebody had tagged me and said, "Hey, Egnards, you and Sarah need to do a whole breakdown on this engagement." And now Sarah just recently joined our Discord. She doesn't participate. I don't expect her to. She doesn't play the game
yeah,
anymore, right?
yeah.
And this person did not tag her. And I had said to this person, I was like, "You don't even need to tag her. The words Taylor Swift were spoken. She will be here." Not, not even 60 seconds later, she's screaming in the general chat of Discord my name out. And I was like, "See, this couldn't work out more perfectly.
Yeah,
This is
yeah.
big news." We thought about icing you out this week, but
Fair, fair enough.
I figured we
Yeah.
wouldn't.
Uh, she actually she and I didn't get a chance to tell her this because it's been crazy the last 7 days, but she is how I found out.
Mhm.
Like I was kind of I had gotten back from Las Vegas and I was just trying to take care of things, so I had been kind of radio silent for a couple of days, and I looked and I'm like, oh, that's really weird. Like it's strange that I get a direct message from her. Like it's
Yeah,
usually like, so I'm like, oh, is everything all right? And then I saw the note and I'm like, all right, this is it was great. So um, yeah, congratulations to both of them. Uh, I would like half of the engagement ring so I can retire.
I'll take a quarter, man. Like that's it. That's fine. I don't need anything more than that. I'm not. I'll take
Yeah,
an invite to the wedding. Personally,
yeah,
I'll be
yeah,
happy with that. It would make my wife's existence. It would put me at work with all the women at school. It would like bring me up a
yeah,
notch in coolness.
yep.
So Taylor, if you're listening, or Travis, I don't care. Jason, doesn't matter who you are.
Yeah.
Hook me up.
I I imagine that Travis and Jason are listening to this to hear what masterwork sounds like so they can just get better with their show.
Right?
Like
I've
we're
heard that their
required listening if you just want to be good.
I've heard that their production value is pretty low. So,
Yeah, exactly. They're like, look, the lo-fi masters, we're gonna go listen to the lo-fi masters and we're gonna figure out how to make this happen. So
two guys who don't need a script. Come on, guys, do better. I don't know if they need a script. I have no idea. Meanwhile, I'm reading lines. I've got a teleprompter right
yeah.
over here. Just an AI hooked up to like what you
Yeah.
say, and it just generates for me. That's the secret to my
But
success.
the other fun part on Taylor, so when I turned 50, I did join AARP because I was told about all of these discounts. They're grossly overstated. But the first pop-up the next day, that it literally was something to the effect of how Taylor Swift has built a strong relationship with her father and is helping him in his retirement years. And I'm like, oh, is this what it's like being old? Is that they just find like popular things and they try and tie it to the oldies to make us feel better, like that we're tied to this as well. So,
It does.
um, yeah,
That's what it
yeah,
is.
that's what I have to look forward to.
Well, I've got a few years, hopefully, and
Yeah,
I'll be messaging you in 12 years and going, listen, I get it. I get it now. I don't know who will be the pop princess. It'll probably be like Olivia Rodrigo getting married. I don't know.
yeah,
Who
yeah.
knows? Times
Someone.
change quickly.
Yeah.
So we don't have a ton of news. We don't have a lot going on. We basically ignored the news last time we did an episode. Um, we do have Vane. We do
Yep.
have the update notes, which are not very interesting. We have a few of our own topics. Where do you want to start tonight?
Do we want to knock out Bane and then, or Vane, and then dive into kind of what we wanted to chat
Yeah,
through?
all right, sure. We'll knock
Okay.
out Vane first. Okay, so I'll throw that up on
Uh,
the screen.
by the way, did you see my awesome picture that I stuck on the bottom?
I actually because we are such pros, and we definitely put this together not at the last minute, and not in the last hour. I have not had a chance to take a look at that yet. Um,
Yeah, there's a picture at the bottom. AI let us down. Uh,
okay.
so Vane. Um, so the event ends tomorrow, correct?
The event ends tomorrow. Yes.
Okay. And uh, before we jump into the kit read, have you played much with him at all?
I haven't because I don't bring these guys to 7 right away. So
Sure.
to me, I know they're usable now with the relics, but you've been playing the game the same way for 9 years. You don't even
Yeah.
think about using a character. You go, oh, I don't really have him. I used him a little bit. I think I used him in my raid run for my pirates, but I haven't gotten a
Okay.
chance to really play around with him. I've done a couple extra shards. I'm hoping to gear him up a little bit faster. All I know is that he's a tank.
He is a tank, and we'll do the joke read, but uh, at a high level, he has pulled the interesting pieces of kit from Savage, Geobrood Alpha, Moff Gideon, or Dark Trooper Moff Gideon, and uh, Darth Malgus.
Okay.
Like he is going to be the legit tank. Like I think that when it's all said and done, if you look at the way that his kit shakes out, um, I think that he's probably gonna be tagged as probably one of the better tanks that we have in the game.
Yeah.
So
I did look
with
when
that,
I was doing stuff. I saw like you say with like Brute Alpha, there is like health equalization, which I found
yeah,
to be interesting.
yeah,
And then the other, I enjoy interesting mechanics. I enjoy games that have weird things going on.
yeah,
So I did also notice that he takes debuffs and then he gains health and everything from those debuffs. And that to me is like a strange mechanic that we really haven't
yeah.
seen much of. So I am liking that, and I'm sure once I do get to use him, that he's going to be a fun character.
Now he also, when he steals those buffs, um, he flips. I know, like tenacity down, he flips into tenacity
Hmm.
up. So there's a couple of them he flips the other direction. The interaction to me that's super interesting, and I don't know why, but so Brutus gives himself ferocity on with his second special,
Okay.
and then Vane pulls ferocity over,
Okay.
and that to me, that seems like a weird, like you wouldn't, I don't, to me that's not something you would want to have happen. Now, is this just an interaction that CG hasn't kind of like wrapped their head around? Like, oh yeah, by the way, ferocity is a debuff, even though it provides some offense bonus. Or are we going to get something in the Pirate King's kit that's like, hey, when this happens, something that basically is like, hey, when Brutus loses that, he gets like, I don't know, 100% offense or something for the next turn or something like that. So I just, that's really interesting to me from what I saw there.
It goes. So I did a stream this morning because it's Labor Day. It's the day before I go back to work, and somebody came in and they asked me like, "What is the priority of pirate Zetas?" And it kind of goes back to the answer I gave them. I said, one, as someone who doesn't have them all at 7 stars, I don't know. Two, as somebody who's very far into the late game and who applies every Zeta as it comes in, I don't know. A first world champagne problem. But three, because we don't have all of the kits yet, right? Like you don't
Yeah.
really know. You can get an idea. You can say, wow, this one's going to probably be really important. Obviously, they all are to some extent, but you don't know what the level of importance is until you understand the interactions with every character. And we're still missing Pirate Captain Jude Law, and we're still missing Pirate King
Yeah.
Hondo.
Yep. And this is where, I mean, I think sometimes you can get an idea of directionally where teams are going, and then
Hmm.
this seems to be a massive debuff buff team, like the original Bad Batch.
Yeah.
And I just think those are so hard to get a sense of what those teams really can do because it's just like, hey, you get everything, so just figure out what happens with everything outside of like, oh, they're going to be a great conquest team because they will probably get you whatever you need at at a certain place. If I need to
Hmm.
get 60 of X or something on that side, but um I mean, yes, the profit mechanic is there. I'm just still not sure that I they're going to do a lot of damage. They seem to be tanky, but I don't think that's enough. Like, it kind of feels like you need to know, like, you need to be able to hang your hat on something, and I'm not sure that we're seeing that right now. So
I think what I'm hoping, because I know originally they said there's going to be two leaders, but now it seems like Pirate Captain Jude Law is going to be a leader too. I
yeah,
think what I'm hoping happens is we don't just see it as, okay, Jude Law is the leader if you don't have the GL, and Hondo is just the better version. Obviously, Hondo's going to be better. We know that. And once you have
yeah,
him, you'll
yeah,
always use him. But I hope that the teams mechanically function at least slightly differently between having the two of them, and it's not just like, oh, it's the same lead or it's
yeah.
the same abilities, but it's just increased a little bit more.
And there's an interesting piece to that as well, and again, because you get a lot of the questions of what zetas are important. Uh, my assumption is Jude Law will have a Zeta on his lead,
Yeah,
but do you put the Zeta on his lead if you're Zeta constrained, knowing that long term he's not the answer?
yeah, yeah.
So it's I think there's a lot of people gonna have to make really tough decisions around where am I, how close am I to Hondo, and do I just shelve the rest of these pirates until it actually shows
Till I
up?
have him.
Um, yeah,
And that's a great
yeah.
point. But now, on the other hand, we might see his leader just being an Omega specifically for that reason. So
Have we
who
seen that?
knows? I think we have recently because I feel like I was looking at a character and I noticed that their lead wasn't a Zeta. Can I recall who
Yeah,
it was? No.
yeah,
Um, but is that something that they might do? Yes. Now, the counterpoint to that is we also got five Omicrons on Inquisitor leads, right? Right before
yeah.
Grand Inquisitor. So who knows?
I think though, hindsight being 2020, I think that CG probably does that a little differently. Also at the time, the idea of more than one character with an Omicron,
Yeah.
in a game mode was unheard of.
Yep.
And now we're like, oh, this is a 9 Omicron team that we're
The
running out
UFO
here,
team.
yeah, for no apparent reason. So, um, especially with how garbage those
The leads are.
it's yeah, if you were to move those Omicrons onto all of their uniques,
Hmm.
I don't think it fundamentally changes any of those teams. Like, I think that they're still really great teams, but they don't do anything
It's not
at
going to
the end
do
of the day.
enough.
So, yeah,
I
yeah,
did like when it came to the Inquisitors, and I know when they came out, they were like the marquee event. If you remember, it might have been Fives' marquee event where it took 20 minutes to do, and they just hit like wet noodles, and everyone
yeah,
was saying like,
yeah,
if this is you showing us why we should get these characters, you have failed, right? Um,
yeah.
the one thing that I did really like about the early Inquisitors, though, was they were kind of like the bounty hunters in That it was okay, if you're going to use them against this team, use this lead. If you're going to use them
Yep.
against this
Yep.
team, use that lead. Now, Grand Inquisitor kind of negates that. Third Sister kind of negates that. But I did enjoy them trying to do something with that mechanic.
Yeah. It was cool. And I mean, look, and they largely did pull that off with the bounty hunters because there are still,
Yeah.
Bosk is usually the lead. There are times that Aura kind of pops up, so they do kind of move around a little bit. I think more broadly, the bounty hunters are a little bit more plug and play as extras on a team. But
Hmm.
um, yeah, I wish that they would. I know they normally don't go back and revisit teams, and revisiting Zetas and Omicrons are probably even less likely to happen. Um, but I would love it if they could actually go back and just take a look at the Inquisitors and make those Omicrons, I don't know, somewhat useful.
Yeah, it would
Um,
be nice. And especially even talking more broadly, like some of the Omicrons or Zetas that are just completely useless, right? Like Aura Singh's Zeta, which
yeah,
is for toppling in raids, completely utterly useless.
yeah,
It would be nice if every once in a while, even if it was like a few times a year, they did two or three of them. Would be great. It would be a
yeah,
really nice
yeah,
addition to the game.
yeah. Uh, yeah, the Aura Sing one, like in theory, this is great. We never tested it with any monster that falls down. It's not going to work out. So,
Hmm.
oh well. All right, let's take a quick look at this.
Let's do it.
So when we were looking at again, we're going to do the AI read, and again for I will explain this for folks because I assume that my life experience is not the same as everyone else's, but I'm a massive college football fan, having grown up or spent the last 30 years on the Ohio State program. And as such, I had my fifth grandfather walk into my home every Saturday morning, a gentleman by the name of Lee Corso, who did College Game Day, and it was a huge part of my life. And he retired. This was his last game at Ohio State this week. For those that may have seen before, Lee Corso was the older guy that used to put the mascot head on to predict the winner of the game that they were actually doing the live broadcast from. And Lee Corso, very famously, the first time that he ever did this was at Ohio State. He put on Brutus's his hat, and then he did that to end the season and correctly predicted Ohio State beating the number one team in the country, Texas Longhorns, and Arch Manning is a chump. But moving on. So we're going to do a read as Lee Corso talking or breaking down Vane. And I will probably say Bane 4 or 5 times over because I'm just having a hard time with the word Vane. Um, so here we go. Not so fast, my friend. You thought this was just another tank? Think again. This is Vane, the dark side pirate bruiser with more grit than a Tuscan raider in a sandstorm. He's dark side, he's a tank, and he's a pirate through and through. This guy doesn't just soak damage, he thrives on it. The longer the fight goes, the tougher he gets. Think of him as an offensive lineman on your pirate crew, not flashy, but absolutely essential. Backstory again for those that don't know, because he was on a little bit of a esoteric show in the Star Wars universe. Straight out of the Mandalorian, he was in the Mandalorian. Bigger piece was in Skeleton Crew. Vane survived Gorian Shard's downfall and landed with Brutus after a mutiny. The survival instinct is baked into every ability, and the cherry on top, his moves are named after lines from the Skeleton Crew. That's what I call cinematic synergy. Strategy tips. So this is kind of a little bit of the abilities. We just want the credits. Hits hard and stacks defense like pancakes at a tailgate. Put it down, little one. Adaptive playmaker, more health, stun. So if he has more health, it stuns the target. If he has less health than the target, he dodges and heals. And if he's got 10 stacks of profit, he'll steal taunt and bulk up. And then it must be fake. He takes his hits so his crew doesn't have to. Debuff sponge, health tank, and team buffer all rolled into one. So that's that ability where he pulls all the debuffs to himself. Uh, Synergy alert, pair him with Galactic Legend, Pirate King, Hondo Anaka, and it's game over. Vane becomes a fortress. He gains extra bulwark, heals like crazy, and even removes debuffs from Hondo when things get dicey. Territory Battle Omicron. So, oh baby, he's a beast. Double health, double protection, and if he drops low, he bounces back like a rubber ball. Plus, he spreads debuffs like peanut butter on toast. We don't understand all the unlock info coming around that. So, um,
Now
yeah,
I
it's
have a question before you get into the
yeah.
kit. At Ohio State, is pancakes at a tailgate a thing?
No, not well. with one of my friends, yes, there's it's a whole thing.
Okay.
In again in the '90s, uh, there was an offensive lineman by the name of Orlando Pace who was just an absolute monster, who was doing pancake blocks all the time. But no, it's really not.
Okay.
It's typically liquid and maybe some brats.
Oh yeah, no, I've been to tailgates before.
Yeah, yeah,
There
yeah,
is this one. There's a Jets tailgate around here. Well, obviously around here. That they do every year. They organize this big, like 200-person tailgate. It's for charity. It's to raise money for someone who had passed away like 10 years ago, maybe even 15 at this point. And even before I liked watching football, I used to go to it just because my friends knew, it was for charity. My friends all went to it, and there was lots of liquor, right? So for a
yeah,
very
yeah,
cheap $120 with the ticket to the game, you would have a very, very fine morning slash afternoon.
yeah.
So I understand the concept of tailgate.
No, yeah, no, no, yeah. It's the look. It's not a southern tailgate where the food is out of control. Like that
Mhm.
was the bigger piece there. Uh, I did hear an interesting story as a quick tailgate aside. Uh, Two of the guys I were with did not get tickets, so they actually watched at the tailgate that we were at. And of course, everything kind of clears out, and they were running out of ice.
Okay.
So they came up with the brilliant idea of calling Uber Eats and having them pick up 10 bags of ice and bring it to the tailgate because the streets were clear enough for them to get there. And I'm like, what a great idea. What a phenomenal idea. So I came back to cold beer after the game instead of actually, lukewarm Coors Light. So
That's beautiful. That reminds me of this is not a Star Wars Galaxy Heroes podcast. That reminds me when I first met my wife, we went to go see Taylor Swift at the Reputation tour with her friends, and her friends and her friends' friends. So she only knew a few people.
yeah,
And we got to this tailgate, and it was 100% the whitest tailgate you've ever seen because it was 12 people around with White Claws and
yeah,
guacamole and chips and like cold cut sandwiches. And it was explained to me, they're like, oh, after the concert, we brought a ton of extra cold cuts because we figure we'll just sit out here and tailgate again for 2 hours while we wait for all of the cars to go by.
yeah,
It was a
yeah,
very smart decision on our part because we got to sober up and also eat at late
yeah,
night.
yeah, yeah. Uh, so just a couple of notes. In one, it's actually a really simple kit, which
Yeah.
most of the pirates have been pretty simple. Uh, his basic, uh, he gains 20% defense stacking for every stack of profit when he hits with basic, which
Yes. For one
under
turn.
Hondo that for one turn, yeah.
For one
But
turn.
but under Hondo, that's an uncapped stack of profit, correct?
Yes. Yep.
So real hard to take down would be my guess.
Got to take them down early,
Um,
right? Because you
yeah.
don't want them to gain those profit stacks.
Uh, anyone who has fought the geos, his next move is the health percentage equal is the equalization one, I believe. Um, no, that's the steel taunt one. The health equaling,
That's his special
I hate
too.
that
Yeah.
mechanic. Yeah, I hate that mechanic. I absolutely hate that mechanic. Um, because it just takes, especially if the rest of the team is fast
Yeah.
and they kind of start turning some things over from that side. I just think it'll be a pain in the butt. I think he's going to be a really great tank. I really do. This is at least my view. I think that they've done a great job of balancing the how do I make something bulky but
Hmm.
not killable. So
Yeah.
we'll see.
I think it's been an interesting. I wasn't excited for Pirates. I still don't really necessarily care for Pirates, but I
Yeah,
have enjoyed the kits and the minimal amount of playtime I've had with them and doing the raid. Like they at least have interesting kits that are more. I don't want to say they're more fun to play, but they're at least more dynamic to play than a lot of the
yeah,
other ones that are in the game. There is one thing that I wanted to touch on in this specific kit, which is the TB Omicron. And it's almost like a PSA that I want to bring out to people who are going for Pirate King Hondo, and not for people who have every single Omicron in the game. like my co-host here. If you are hurting for Omicrons, and I love TB Omicrons, I have so many of them. I love autoing things. I would wait on this one for now.
Yeah.
GL teams typically do very well in TB regardless. They typically do not need the Omicron to auto things. Let somebody like Pico Burrito, who is not limited by
Yeah.
Omicrons anymore,
Yeah.
let those people do the testing on it so you can decide if it's needed. Now, if you're not getting Pirate King Hondo for a long time and you're just using the pirates, great. Maybe it's a good option for you. But if your plan is to get Pirate King Hondo in like the next 6 months to 8 months, just let other people figure it out because I'm 80% sure you're not going to need to apply this.
And it's a great call out because the other thing to keep in mind is with the pirates, the other territory battle Omicron is on Quiggle. So they're two tank, characters. So it's the you know where does it make sense? If can you do more with a second pirate team maybe under Maz and Quiggle?
Yeah.
Although we tend to see conquest characters do very very well uh, in territory battles as well. I today ran Ethano,
Hmm.
Brutus, um, Smee in the two tanks with the Omicrons, and yeah, they stood forever. I think I fell asleep in the middle of the fight. It was taking so long to get done. So I think it probably could have basicked, although I was trying to figure out maybe how some of the kits work, but I
Yeah.
don't think that they're going to be mandatory in these.
No. And the
Uh,
Quiggled one I think is locked behind no GL. So it is kind of locked
yes,
on the Maz kit, which I remember talking to you about and saying was almost weird to me just because in TB you don't really need balance at all.
yeah.
But they have drawn that hard line in the sand of saying, hey, this character don't put with Hondo in TB. So that one maybe will be more useful. I don't know when the teams are fully fleshed out and figured out.
The other piece on the for Vane, his is tied to pirate allies as well.
Yes.
So it's not like you can drop him in another team and have him do some interesting stuff that way. So I just think they're going to be way too restrictive.
Yeah.
You know, we'll see. Uh,
That's why we're gonna let you do the testing. You're not limited by
all
them
right, fair
anymore.
enough. Yeah,
I don't feel very limited by Omicrons anymore, but there's still I have a lot more that need to be done.
yeah, yeah.
So for someone who I look at them and I go, wow, this is gonna really amplify my TB and make my life easier. I'm saying I'm just gonna wait. I'm gonna see what other people do with it first because I just don't feel like it's going to be a necessary one.
Well, and I think a big piece, and we're probably going to talk about this, but what happens over the next 3 months, I think, is going to dictate what a lot of people do with their rosters over the next
Yeah.
6 months.
Yes.
You know,
Because we're nearing the
so
and this is a great segue because we're nearing the end of Pirates,
yeah,
right? This is the last episode
yep,
in Pirates. We have Jude Laws coming out next week. Typically, historically, pattern wise, the big boss character comes out about 5 to 7 days after the last marquee.
yep.
It might be as far as 2 weeks because, as of right now, we don't even have the last requirements. Um, but it's probably going to be coming pretty quickly, and then we move into the next era. I know we don't have any news on it yet,
Nope.
and I think you have some thoughts.
Well, so it's funny. I was thinking about this, like, and I'll say this is less about what I think is going to happen,
Okay,
although I do have a guess there. It's more what I would love to see happen,
okay. So I have
and,
two
and
as
that
well, and it's kind of the same
yeah,
way.
okay, okay. Uh, I will start with what I would love to see happen. Is I would love to see an era built around ships that gives us a new capital ship at the end of it. Not because I want a new capital ship,
Yeah,
but because I want to know how capital ships are going to work in the era time period. Like
yeah,
how do we do this? And and what I think it's going to be is I think it will be I think it will be the ship from Skeleton Crew, the pirate ship, not the ship that the kids were on. I
Okay.
think that we'll get that ship. I think it'll be, Brutus's kind of pirate cruiser. I think that we'll probably, Vane had a ship in The Mandalorian. So now you're starting to see some things roughed out. Can you magically create a ship for Athano and Quiggold and Quix?
Of
And
course you can.
now you're starting to, yeah, you're starting to get a framework around that. Um, I'm just one. I want to know how it's going to work in that era, and then more importantly, if we get into an era of ships,
Hmm.
think about how many resources that frees up for players right now as they're trying to kind of get through the mace and the pirate eras to be raid ready.
Yeah. Yeah. Especially
You know,
like relic
this was
materials.
yeah, relic materials, omicrons. Like this is one of the things that Sarah and I always used to talk about. Like when the the ships would when you'd get a conquest ship, what that meant was you didn't need omicrons for a conquest character for 6 months, a half
Hmm.
year. Like think about like that's how people get caught up is when these things kind of delay themselves out. So I just and correct me if I'm wrong, but the next era should lead into the free December,
The free December. Yeah.
which in theory could be there's a possibility we could go 4 months without a marquee character. That's really interesting to me. So yeah, that's what I want to see happen because I just want to see what it does to the game.
Yeah.
Um, not I'm not sure CG's got the guts to do that though.
My thought is, and I had a similar conversation with somebody last week. Somebody joined my guild in the last week, and he is like a pirate nut job, loves them.
Sure.
And he was talking about like, I cannot wait for a pirate ships era. And I was trying to talk
Yeah.
him down to the ledge. I don't think CG is going to give us 9 months of pirates. It's pirate
Yeah.
fatigue. I do think there is a possibility of a pirate ship era, but I think they kind of need to give us a breathing room, of like
Yep.
6 months and say, okay, next spring or next summer we'll do that, to get that fleet into the game. If they were going to do a ship era, my hope would be that they do like more of a grab bag and they try to flesh out all of the fleets that right now are no longer fleets, right?
Yeah.
So like home one is useless. It's nothing. You use negotiator or you use endurance. You can't use both. It's
Yeah.
impossible,
Yeah.
Executrix and Chimera, you can't use both of them. It's just impossible. I would
Yeah.
really like to see every fleet that we currently have be technically usable at the same time. And that to me would be
Yeah.
awesome.
So interesting about that. One, and I would love that. Which I'll hold off what I think that they're going to do, and I think it kind of gets into a little bit of what you're talking about right there. But uh, they're going to have to be very very specific in ship kits if that's what they try to do
Yeah.
to pin that ship to the capital ship.
Hmm.
Like we saw it with Bad Batch. Bad Batch was, or what's the name of the Bad Batch
Marauder,
ship?
yes.
Marauder. The Marauder was an attempt to put it with the Endurance and make the Endurance a viable fleet. And we're like, yeah, no, that's not how it's going to work. Like, we'll just stick it over here and make it happen that way.
And we
Uh,
still, I mean, some people do. I use endurance with Marauder sometimes, but you can't use both. It's either or.
yeah, yeah,
And
yeah,
that kind of sucks because once you commit to endurance, your negotiator fleet is useless, and vice versa.
yeah.
And they did the same thing with the
It,
defender.
yeah. It, look, I know the Defender is supposed to go with all the TIE fighters in Tarkin. I use it exclusively with the Chimera because it's just one of the counters that I love to use. That coming in first just makes all of the problems go
All at
away.
work.
So
Yeah.
uh, I, I I know the players typically don't like the scripted teams, but I kind of feel like if that's what their goal is, you're going to have to script it. And I think that the unique on the ships is how you kind of frame those up, because you can stick a bunch of stuff in a unique that makes other ships really impactful together, and then that almost becomes like the glue to tie them into a capital ship from that side.
Yeah, and I agree with you. I've said this before. I think I've said this to you. When you have a game with 300 characters, right? And I know it's ships. It's really
Yeah,
like 60. It's very, very hard to not put characters into a bubble of a team because otherwise
yeah.
you get these super teams that nobody knows what to do with.
So as we're talking, I want to go into see if I can. All right, so how many 5-man groupings can I make with 300 people? How many different? Let's see, because I know there's a formula for these. Yeah, I don't need the formula. I just need to tell me the result. So the result right now, this is telling me there are 20 billion unique 5-person groupings of 300 people.
Yeah,
How do you test that?
you can't.
Yeah, how
You
do you
can't.
how do you
You
how do you
can't do
test
it.
that? Uh,
And it's one of those things that,
yeah,
like, when CG releases a team and it doesn't like let's just say Rebels, right? And they release a
yeah,
new Rebel and there's a broken mechanic with another Rebel character. That is when I roll my eyes and go like, why didn't you test this?
yeah,
But
yeah,
now when you get like new Bad Batch with Fugitive Omega and that interaction with Nihilus, and the cooldowns and everyone getting angry about that, in my head, I'm like, I understand why they didn't test it
yeah,
with Sith because
yeah.
that's not on their radar. It does it. That's where the brute force of having tens of thousand players comes in, and they all just try the weirdest crap.
Well, and look, short of a couple of very specific individuals that you know are personalities in this game, most people don't remember more than about it's typically about 3 abilities per character. I have a rough idea that these are what the 3 active abilities do. I might remember something about the unique, but I don't remember all of those details of all of those things. So, when the fugitive and nihilist piece comes up, yeah, most people aren't gluing them together because they're not sitting there going, all right, so this is an interaction. Give me every character in the entire game that I can
Yeah,
exploit with this, because you can't remember that. I
yeah. I,
mean,
I
you know,
like to think that I am a personality in this game, and I don't remember more than like 5 kits at a
yeah,
time. So there's people way smarter than me, but it's very rare that people know every kit. And when I say, oh, I did this thing and it was really dumb, and other people go like, oh, how did you not know that this character does this thing to that character and they're unique? And I'm like, because I have a job and
yeah.
other things in life that are not this game. So I don't know. I made a mistake and I'm gonna laugh about it. It is what it is.
Uh, I don't remember all the characters because my son expects me to know the difference between smallmouth and largemouth bass, and I mean that's just two things. So, uh, so the along the lines, what I think we're going to get
Okay.
is a variation of a rebels theme, but it's either the era of rebels that you can pull in Luthen's ship, and maybe we get a B wing and some other interesting things around that, or it's just like the era of the dawn of the rebellion, and it's just season 1 of Andor characters, because there's a ton that they can mine out of the Andor
Yeah.
kind of mythos in that piece, and I think would be great. I think they'd make great characters in there. So
I would like to see Andor characters come to the game. When you gave me homework earlier today and said, "Oh, we should do this thing," and I was like, "Oh,
yeah,
great! I'm at the movies right now, and then I'm going home, and I don't know when I'm gonna have time to do homework." I didn't even think of Andor. I know a
yeah,
lot of people would really love to see Andor, and I would not hate on Andor at all. Especially, I've been really fighting for getting that profundity lifter and getting the Fonder Hallcraft in the game.
yeah,
Um, my thought process was, and I actually want to knock on wood because I get it. He's a big character in Star Wars. I particularly don't like him. I think he's a dumb character. I have a feeling that we're going to get Snoke by the end of the year, and we're going to finish out with episode 7 content and do like First Order that's not locked behind Supreme Leader Kylo Ren. So like
Okay.
Knights of Ren, maybe another Phasma, something like Snoke. That's just where I see the game more than likely going. But Andor, I think, is a strong contender too.
So here's the curveball of this conversation. November is the 10th anniversary.
Yeah.
You need something big,
Hmm.
like obnoxiously big. And while I don't, for me, that this ship is not a be all end all for me. There is the whole Red Five. Like, do we find do we get, so they're talking about something big coming in the back half of the year, and
Yeah.
we have the anniversary of the game coming up. Do we get a change to ships in the
Oh,
game, and Red Five comes in along with that? And so we don't we don't get a capital ship. We get another. Hans Millennium Falcon was not a capital ship, but impacted the game like a capital ship coming
yeah.
in did. Like, do we get Red Five, and we get a shift in the game based off of that, and that way they don't actually have to build out the full, brand new fleet to make everything work.
I would like I would like nothing more to never see Red 5 ever come to the game. Um, for two reasons. One reason because it pisses people off, and that is just very
Yeah,
funny to me.
yeah,
Um, to me, Red 5 is just a generic X-Wing.
it is.
So
Yeah,
to me, it's not interesting, but I understand the logic. It would be like the
yeah.
community would love it. They would go ape shit if Red 5 came to the game. So I could see that being a possibility.
So the interesting thing with Red Five is you have to get flight suit Luke, right? But Luke in Red Five, not a Jedi.
Yeah.
Luke in a flight suit, Jedi. And I think the other piece that I think the community would go crazy for is Rebel Jedi tag Luke Skywalker.
Yeah, they would
So like
feel
how do you,
vindicated.
yeah, how do you tie those two things together? Like, d does the broader community kind of throw like, well, this isn't lore accurate of that time frame, where it's just like, no, chocolate and peanut butter are awesome together. Like that's
Yeah,
what I
it's
got.
that's one of my problems, with I understand certain things when it comes to all these teams don't go together.
Yeah.
I said this before. We're playing Star Wars Magic the Gathering, right? Like we are if in the game, we are a bunch of drunks in a bar throwing down cards onto a holotable playing with our friends.
Yeah.
When I play Magic the Gathering or when you play Pokemon or whatever, like what you do doesn't always make sense,
Yeah.
right? Like you have 5 of the same named character. It doesn't make sense, but you do it in those games. If I wanted to relive Star Wars, I would go watch Star Wars. Like I want it
Yeah.
to be lore interesting. I want it to be lore adjacent. I want the kits to kind of make sense, but I don't care if the team isn't the exact team that I saw in the movie or that they don't work with the exact tags because I understand, and I hope after this more people will understand those tags at the top, they're just flags in the code to make it easier
Yeah.
to say who this works with and who it doesn't work with, right? And it's all about balance. Everything is about balance.
Yeah. It's I think it's also easier to well, maybe I'll say it this way. It's a double-edged sword that people want lore accuracy in the game, and then we get kind of, scripted teams because of they were all on a piece of media. I'm like, no, 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 we don't like that. We pulled away the ability to theory craft with
Yeah.
those things. So, and again, I get it. Those are two. Typically, they're going to be two very drastic, different sets of players. There are, there. I think the Star Wars Pokemon players very much are like, no, I want lore accurate tags and I want them to be part of the group and I want to use them together in that way. Um, yeah, so I just I'll I would it'll be interesting to me if we ever get Red 5. What does the game look like 6 months, 12 months later
Yeah,
when the big boogeyman in the future isn't there? Like it's because you start running out of like, well, when are we gonna get? When are we gonna
the
get?
big
When are we
guy.
gonna get? Yeah. Um, I think if we look at the calendar and we play some things out, we probably don't get Red 5 because 50th anniversary of A New Hope is in 2027, which means we probably get the Death Star raid and Red 5 in 2027, I guess.
And to be completely honest with you, and I know that you probably know this, but
Yeah,
I think a lot of people in the community don't realize this. They probably are frameworking 2027 right now.
yeah,
You
absolutely,
know, they're not
absolutely.
putting any crazy coding into it, but they are road mapping it. You know, they are coding the next era. They're finishing up. They're dusting it off. The next 2 or 3 hours after that, they're diligently working on, and there are people in meeting
Yeah,
rooms going, "Where do we go in January 2027?"
yeah,
100%
yep.
more than anything else.
Uh, Look to bring it back to things I absolutely know to be true. So we make my company makes networking hardware. We typically start prototyping those devices 36 to 48 months in advance of when we see the release.
Yeah.
And so it's that's just the way that and now it's hardware's a little bit different than software, but yeah, absolutely, they're scoping that out. Their it's what their fiscal starts in 2026. So
I think
right
it
now
starts
they're
in
probably
March. I'm not 100% sure.
yeah, excuse me, March. That's
I think
so they're
I'm not.
likely yeah the last they'll probably start October, November, really finalizing what the plans are going to look like going into for next fiscal year, which means they are 12 months away from being to start the actual plan into
Yeah,
2027 at that point. So,
it's coming up quick.
um, yep, it things move very very quickly, despite the fact that we think 2 years away is a long time. So,
I was
uh,
just saying to my wife today that like when they announce things like let's just say House of Dragons, right? And they're like the next season isn't coming out for 3 years, and we all roll our eyes and go, oh, "Come on, like can't you guys figure your shit out?" And then I in my head I internally go, how am I going to wait for this, right? This is 3 years away. And then I snap my fingers
yeah,
and I go, "Oh, it's here." Right? Like time
yeah,
just goes
yeah,
so fast.
yeah.
Unfortunately, where you go, "Oh shit, we're already there."
It happened.
It's insane. Now, my hope, right? So you talked about your hope, which is ships. You talked about what you thought was more likely, which is Andor. My most likely would be 10th anniversary of episode 7 and getting Snoke into the game. My
Yeah,
hope, which I don't think is likely, I hope they give us a grab bag era. And during that era, they just plug in like one character per team to make things. I want like that one missing link. Like I feel like what's his name? Organa. Bail Organa is like
yeah.
he's my red 5. It is such it is such a shit thing that he is not in this game yet. And I just feel like we need an era that plugs all the little holes in teams. And I don't think it's likely, but that would be where I would love to see things go.
Would we call that the era of closure?
Yeah, you know what? That would be fine with me. And I think it's a really great way to end the year, right? Because we just did the GL,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
means we're not doing GL stuff. We are only going to be 6 months. No, we'll be 3 to 4 months into the raid. So we're not even thinking about new raid stuff. So it's kind of like we just need characters to lead you to something.
yeah,
And that something can be anything. The characters themselves don't have to be cohesive. They never said they have to be this cohesive net or they have to be on the same team. So that's where I would like to see things go.
So what's interesting about that is the raid prep likely starts in January.
I think so
Like the
too.
new character for the raid starts in January. So it's almost as you're talking about this, it feels like the cadence might start to look like Era 1 raid, Era 2 raid, Era 3 is the big thing, and maybe Era 4 is just stuff,
Yeah.
you know? Um, yeah, that's a lot to ask to put I mean, I know we've done it in the past, but to stick at the end of a Galactic Legend, I mean, basically Journey Guide, Galactic Legend, Capital Ship. That's a lot to ask of people
Hmm.
in a window. So I like the grab bag idea.
That's kind of
And
where I
looking to throw
hoped
different characters
that
into
they
it.
would
Yeah,
do this with the conquest units, right? Because they said conquest units won't be attached to eras, except sometimes.
yeah,
But it's kind of been
yeah,
the opposite. And I was really hoping that they would use
yeah.
the conquest characters as these grab bags to plug those holes. And they just haven't done that.
So if we did a grab bag era, do you think it would be a 5 character era, or do you see it as a 6 character era, knowing that following that there's no characters for a whole month after it?
I think I would hope for 5 characters. That would be really
Yeah,
nice if they didn't give us this crazy big commitment. Other than the first era, they've all been 6 character eras.
yeah,
And who knows if that was on purpose, if that was planned, if that had to do with a rushed, whatever. Um, but my hope would be that it is a 5 character era. And if you're going to ask
yeah.
me who those other 4 characters are, I want to remind you that you gave me 3 hours to do this homework. So we're not going there.
No, no, and so that's so I'm starting to think about the year in terms of there are 23 spot slots, and then there are 4 kind of quarterly entries. Is the way that
Yeah.
the way that it shakes out. Um, I, I don't see, and we know that 2 of the slots are automatically pulled off the table because they're in December. Uh, yeah, I would love it if they just did it again. I view it as for every marquee you don't release, that's just a bunch of resources you're dumping back into players that they can use how they want to
Hmm.
finish something, build something, invest that way. And I would love if they pulled some of that off of the table.
But now is the
Uh,
counter argument that um, Lightspeed tokens are the answer to that? Because those Lightspeed
no, be,
tokens, they allow you to do that without the gearing. Now, granted, some of them you do need to spend money on,
yeah,
but in terms of gearing, you can at least get the episode pass, right? To get one right now, which is not great,
yeah.
but it's something.
So the problem with the tokens is they still don't alleviate the Zeta Omicron
Yeah.
bottleneck that a lot of mid game players run into. Um, yes, it makes. Do you know what you don't hear people complain about anymore? Circuit boards, because it's so easy to kind of burst up over that point and not to have to
Hmm.
worry about it from that side. So, and look, every time they remove a bottleneck, they insert a new one that into its place. So we have to be careful with some of those pieces. But
I think that's the thing that people don't really understand is that the game is the bottleneck, right? So when you alleviate a bottleneck, there is an answer bottleneck. There will always be
yeah,
a bottleneck. The game does not exist without a bottleneck.
yeah.
So be careful what you wish for.
Yeah, speaking of, I almost blew one of my R9s this morning, and right as I was about to hit add, I'm like, wait, there's another set of requirements coming for Hondo, and I guarantee that there's going to be an R9 in that set that I don't have. Like, I don't have that allotted in my kind of my plan for the next month. So,
Who is your dream R9 if they have it for that one?
oh, my dream R9 is because I
Well,
don't think he's in here.
reasonable. I would say reasonable Dream R9, right? Like we all are going to be like,
Yeah,
"Oh, my favorite tank." But while you're thinking about it, I've heard tale in the community that Doku is a likely candidate for R9.
Okay.
Um, I again, not really up on my pirates. I'm just going to believe the community there. And to me, I say, oh, you know what? I would not mind taking Doku to R9. That would be really awesome because now I have an R9 shit unit to throw with Bane.
Yeah.
So to me, that's like, if you do that, that's best case scenario.
I would like him. I think that look, you have one of the three living triumvirate from that
Hmm.
era, or two of the three in Kenobi and Skywalker. You kind of need Snips.
Okay.
Can you throw an R9 Snips in there? I would
So
love
like
that
a
because she's already
freebie.
R9 for me.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's already in there from that side. Which I need to think about that a little bit. Can you pull a father daughter son parallel to Anakin, Kenobi, and Ahsoka?
You're going out of my area of expertise
Yeah,
here with all of
yeah,
the mythology. I'm aware of who they are. I know there was some like imagery to it in Ahsoka. I've seen the
yeah,
cartoon, I've seen Clone Wars. To me, you know, the Father, Son, Holy Spirit, like stuff, whatever.
yeah,
Uh, that's where Star Wars for me gets a little bit like it's kind of like when I watch a movie, a horror movie, and the answer is aliens, and I go, of course it's fucking aliens. Like, come on, think of something better,
yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah.
Like,
Fair enough. Yep.
or how did the aliens get there? Portals. There's always fucking portals, right? Like
Yeah,
it's
yeah.
so that's that to me, but I know other people really, really resonates with them.
It, I the concept to me is cool for those. I'll say it's more because it was Filoni, and I think that Filoni is that Charlie Day
Yeah.
meme where he's got everything like that. That's Filoni like putting
Yeah.
things together, and it's like, oh yeah, we just didn't attach that one string over there yet. Is kind
We
of
got to
how it
get
ties
there.
together. So yeah, yeah. No, I don't want it to be one of the bounty hunters. Like that's the big thing is that I
Okay.
don't want it to be one of the bounty hunters because they will sit on the bench and not do anything.
Yeah.
And I think that they've done a really good job so far of the characters that they're putting at Relic 9 that you need for Relic 9 for this. They're characters you were using. Like we
Hmm.
have finally killed like it's going to be cut because CG's
Yeah.
trying to screw us. No, they're actually giving us good relevant R9 characters.
Yeah. Characters that I go, oh, great. Like, awesome. I
Yeah.
will throw this into a team somewhere.
Yeah. Yep.
Okay. Now, I have
Yeah.
two more quick questions for you tonight so that we can
Okay.
get out of here on a timeline that is not disgusting. The first one is the idea of bonus drops. We're getting bonus drops in September. Those bonus
Okay.
drops are locked behind Relic 3, which is 5 stars. This is the
Yeah.
first time that bonus drops are being locked. We do not know what those bonus drops are yet. I have a feeling we'll find out about that when the patch comes out on Wednesday.
Yep.
Um, what are your thoughts on where bonus? I don't want to lead the question too much. What are your thoughts on where bonus drops are being led with this change?
So I think that I think it's one of two things. I think it is Hondo Rex is where it will be, especially the get to R5 and then we'll give you more stars. Or I think it'll be the standard, Zeta's over here, high end relic material over there, and type of thing. But I really think it's going to be Hondo shards or
Yeah.
Hondo requirement shards is where it's going to land.
But now, where do you think, like with the community? I know I have not given my thoughts really too much on this yet because we don't know
Yeah.
what they are. Where do you think? I don't think the right to is the right wording for this, but do you think that it's reasonable that there are a lot of people in the community that are complaining now because they feel like the bonus drops are locked behind having to put
Oh, great question.
resources into those characters first?
Great question. So look, sometimes you change behavior with carrots, and sometimes you change behaviors with sticks.
Hmm.
And I don't think that what people understand is so in the behavior changes, you need to start pushing characters into relics early.
Yeah.
Like, get to 5 stars, take them to Relic 3. Don't wait. This is this is a carrot attempt to get people to change their behavior.
Yeah.
If you do this, we're going to give you new stuff. We want you to do this, so we're to prove that we're going to make things available to people that take that step. So, I I think that people have the right to get angry at anything they want to. I think that the reaction of people being upset about it is natural because look, we just generally have, for whatever reason, the general reaction of people seems to be anything that I'm being forced to make a change to is being done because someone's trying to screw me over.
Yeah.
Look, we've seen this cycle so many times that when we see these changes come into the game, there's a belief that they're bad for the player base, and they're rarely, if ever, are bad for the player base. We just don't see the outcome on the far side.
Yeah. I think, my response to the bonus drops right now is very tentative, right? Because we don't know what the drops are and we don't know what's going on. But I think that what you're saying is that they're trying to make bonus drops almost like an additional era battles, right? Like, hey, you
Yeah,
invest in these characters, we're going to give you back more on the back end later, right? Not right away. So like
yeah,
players like you who are going to invest in them very, very early get to play with their new shinies. And then players like me or the players who are on the teetering, right? Maybe want to be like me, um, maybe tip themselves over to say, oh, we go after this thing because now I don't have to spend as much because now on the back end, I'm going to get a little bit more than I
yeah.
was already getting. Um,
Well, and I think also if they can get you a lot closer,
yeah.
and now all of a sudden you're like, oh look, I could have Hondo in 2 weeks.
Hmm.
Maybe you're willing to pick up a pack at the backside of this. And again, I don't need you to spend $100 on this character, but if I can get 20 out of you, if I can get, so what? There's 6 characters across this era. Um, Maybe I can't get 600 out of you, but if I can get 100 out of you, that's a win. Like that.
Yeah.
I've converted someone into spending some money at that point. Um,
Because
yeah,
that
I
person
think
wasn't spending
that's
before.
what. Yep. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I think we're on the same page with that, and I would say that people who, I mean, again, I agree with you. That's why I didn't think that have the right to is really the right phrasing. I didn't have a better way to phrase the question.
Yep.
But I think in general, the people who are most annoyed by it are the people who you don't really need to go for this character right now, right? Like
Yeah.
there's other things that are probably more important for your roster right now, and
Yeah.
leave it for later. Leave him for when he's accelerated. And who knows? Everybody's in their own situation. The last thing that I wanted to talk to you about, we have a big update coming. I don't know the month, September, October, November, something back end of the year. They said, hey, this is the first part, right? The stuff that we got a few months ago, the changes to the game that we got a few months ago. This is the first part. There's something even bigger coming. Do you have any tentative ideas about what you think that might be?
It will be a new progression system.
Okay.
I don't think it's going to be Relic 10,
Okay.
uh, but it will be something akin to Relic 10, but will not have the requirement of getting to R9 to interact with.
Okay.
Uh,
So you think it'll be
Almost
like a
like,
separate progression system?
yes, yeah,
Interesting.
yeah. Like, but I think that to enter that progression system, you will maybe. All right, I at least gave you 3 hours of homework. Or time to get your homework ready.
Sorry. I'm
Uh,
sorry. I'm sorry.
yeah, where I'm thinking about it is maybe it's an alternate mechanic for stuff, but the ranks there are tied to relic levels, which is why they're
Okay.
pushing relic levels now. So it's like, look, if your character is relic level 3, you can get into, galactic power level 3, 4, 4, 5, 5, and up the list. The problem that they have right now, relic, even though like it's 7, I think they dropped the lower 2 tiers off.
Yes.
The way that they built the pyramid, the pyramid base gets too big on each character that you have to like to jump. You've got to put so many resources in at the earlier levels. It makes it near impossible for people to get to the top because
Yeah.
of everything that it takes to actually build everything at the bottom. I think that if they start to do something in parallel, that kind of solves that. How do I solve my Relic 9 crunch without just handing people Relic 9 material or something similar at that point?
Interesting. Good answer for having no for having no pre knowledge of the question. Um, I I don't even really know how to respond to that. I kind of see it in my head, right? Like it's
Yeah,
almost like when you play other games and you hit the max level, and then they go, okay, now there's these like extra levels, and you play
yeah,
those whatever these extra things, and you get these little bonuses. I know Diablo does it. I know like Warcraft, I think does it. All of them
yeah,
do it in some way to keep you playing. I think it's an interesting idea for how to handle relics after relics. Because players have said, "Hey, we have gearing, we have relics. What comes next?"
yeah, yeah.
Uh, I think I think to some extent you're right, and the reason I say that is like every change we've seen in the game in the last year has been a fundamental system change.
Yeah.
Right? We saw the era system fundamentally change how things just work. We saw, I don't even remember what the change was a few months ago that like completely just, or not a few months ago, like a month ago with the relicking and how you can do things a totally fundamentally different way than we've been playing for 9 years. And
Yeah.
I think they're at a point where they are trying to reimagine the game, right? Because if you look at Star Wars Galaxy Heroes and you look at the games that came out in 2015, this is a product of 2015.
Yeah. Yeah.
And if you were to download a new game today, right, like Warhammer Tacticus or one of the other gotcha style games today, it looks very different from this.
Yeah.
So I like that idea. My thought was, oh, maybe we're gonna finally get that TW rework. Maybe we're gonna finally make it useful for players and interesting for players and fun for players. I hope that that's not it now because I do like the idea of like just throwing things on their head.
So maybe to put a little bit more meat on it, what if everything tied to the focus datacrons have been leading up to a focused datacron like parallel,
Like a whole system for each
advancement
character.
track? Yeah, so it's maybe the stat numbers aren't as explosive, but there's a system for leveling the character up and maybe it is like maybe this is how they fix um Ray can't always have every UFU because
Hmm.
that makes her so much more powerful. Is that her second level ability has something to the effect of like needs a full team of resistance or something
Hmm.
similar to that. Like so they can maybe put some structure back into some of this. Now,
So
the,
instead of throwing
the
a new character into the mix, right, to do that, throwing a
yeah,
new unique almost into the mix.
yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Now, also the vehicle that you introduce that to the game is exactly what you laid out. Though it's going to be a new game mode or a change to a game mode where you acquire those resources, but and as much as I don't want it to be territory wars, because I don't like that game mode. Territory wars is so irrelevant right now that I have missed the last three. I physically have not joined the last three. I will not be joining the next two either.
Yeah.
It- it's I haven't missed it. You
It's
know,
not interesting.
no, and the whole dip system is failing now because more and more people are they're holding people out. So like, oh, your dip war. We faced a dip war 2 weeks ago. Well, it was in Las Vegas. I think one of the dips that we had, the guild that we were fighting dropped their GP by 25%.
Yeah. Which is huge at that
It's just
level.
like yeah, and they still won. So it's the matchmaking is broken. The content is not fun or interesting. Um, yeah, they've got if they want to do guild PvP, great. They've got to find a way that your guild's advancement through that is not tied to everyone being able to show up like
Yeah.
hourly for 24 hours.
I've said it for a long time. It is the only game mode. I said it to Meathead recently. I said it to a bunch of other people recently. I've had this conversation for years. It is the only game mode in this game that's tied to other people's time.
Yeah,
Every other game mode is tied only to the time that I have available to me.
yeah,
TW is so greatly tied to everybody else in my guild that now I have to be on call. And that
yeah.
sucks, especially on the
Yep.
weekend. If I'm like at a movie and I am not available, or I'm out to dinner with my wife and now I have to sneak off to the bathroom to do a like it's not fun, it's not interesting, it sucks, it screws with real life. It needs a fundamental change of people if they want us interacting with it.
Yep. Agree wholeheartedly.
I think that's everything for tonight, unless you have
Yeah,
anything else.
I don't. I don't. I'm
Okay.
glad we got this in. We're gonna try and keep on some
Some
type
kind
of
of
a
schedule.
schedule or a
Some
pattern.
type. So obviously, to those of you who are still listening, we skipped last week because it was a birthday week, and the normal day that we do this on was the 50th birthday for Mr. Pico Burrito here, and his kids begged and pleaded that he would spend time with them. I'm not going to say that has anything to do with his parenting skills. I'm just going to say that they love him. We were able to get this in halfway through, which is really nice. So we're not 100% sure if we are going to jump the cadence to next Wednesday or if we're going to skip and go back to our normal cadence or what we're going to figure out. But I'm going back into my school year. You are going back into more of a travel oriented timeline.
Yeah.
So we're going to try to stay as regular as possible, but the day drops may be a little bit different. If there's anything that you want to add before we finish up, we're good to go.
No, glad we got it in.
Yeah. All right. Well, everybody, thank you for listening to episode 6 of Zeta Protocol, and peace out, guys.